in and watching DNT where you get the best entertainment for the free. And today I am doing a reaction to basically a Durk trial update because I've been hearing a lot of stuff about his trial. And I really just wanted to react to a video to give like a little more details on the trial. Like I've been hearing stuff, seeing stuff, but I don't really have too many details on the actual trial. So we'll see.
It was day one of Lil Durk's federal trial, and I was there, so let me give you the details on what happened. So the day started off with opening statements from prosecutors, and their theme was that this is a case about revenge, stalking, and premeditated murder. They told the jury that this case is not about music, it's about murder, and what they described as a years-long campaign to get revenge for the death of Davion Bennett, aka King Von. And to tell this story about revenge, prosecutors first introduced the key players in the case. I'm going to go a little out of order, but just so that it makes sense. So the first three key players are the defendants in this case. There's Durk Banks, the Grammy award-winning rapper and founder of OTF. Then DeAndre Wilson, aka Didi, who prosecutors say helped recruit people for the alleged hit and later helped the shooters get away. And then there's David Brian Lindsay, the last defendant for this trial, who prosecutors allege was one of the actual shooters in this murder. And then from there, they move on to the person that they say is central to the entire motive for this case, and that is Davion Bennett, aka King Von. So Von was a rapper, an OTF member, and a close friend of Durk, and he was killed on November 6, 2020 in Atlanta, Georgia. And prosecutors say that after Von was killed by rapper Quando Rondo's entourage, Durk became consumed with getting revenge. And then the prosecutors introduced a few other people who are going to become very important in this trial because some of them will be taking the stand. First up is Jerome Casey Hester, aka OTF.
Jam did Durk so fucking wrong, bro. Nigga had a wire on, like, oh my goodness, hurt the body. Like, why you had to tread up on Durk like that though? Like, that's some weird ass shit, bro. That's some weird shit. Hold on. This damn hair in my face. Some weird ass shit, man.
Jam. And prosecutors called him a, quote, cold-blooded killer. They say Jam was one of the shooters in this murder, and they note he has already pled guilty in connection with this case. He is cooperating with the federal government, and he will be taking the stand to testify against the defendants. Up next is Kevon Grant, aka Vonnie, and prosecutors describe Vonnie as Durk's right-hand man, almost like a personal assistant who would shop for him, book transportation, and do other stuff. And in regards to Vonnie, the government told the jurors that he was apparently involved in a stolen car ring and was someone who could obtain stolen cars and guns. According to prosecutors, Durk got Vonnie to get the cars and guns that were used in this alleged murder. Now, Vonnie has also pleaded guilty and is cooperating with the government, and so he will also be taking the stand against the defendants in this case. And then the last person to know is Keith Jones. Prosecutors say Keith was the third shooter in this murder, and he has also pleaded guilty and will be testifying against the defendants. So that's three.
So the only one not testifying is Durk?
Stand against the three defendants in this case. You following? Okay. After introducing
Durk's the only one not taking the stand? Damn. Yo, that's fucked up. He the only one not taking the stand?
The prosecutor then moves on to lay out the timeline of how they say this all started. So it started in November 2020 with King Von's death. And then the next thing that happened was an attempted shooting in Georgia in May of 2021. And then after that, we get to this murder that happened in August of 2022 in Los Angeles. It, of course, resulted in the death of Savia Robinson, although the intended target for that shooting, according to the government, was actually Quando Rondo. So the government lays all of that out during their opening statement, and they finish off the statement by reminding jurors again that all of this is because of Durk's revenge. They tell the jurors that they will see a text message where Durk says, quote, "We staying out other people's wars. They don't hop in ours, it's crazy. They don't slide or hurt. MFers leaving it all up to us." So that was their opening. And from there, Durk's attorney, Marissa Goldberg, was up to give her opening statement. And she starts off her opening with a quote. She says, quote, "Everybody knew I took care of Von. Whatever you saw, I helped him do it. Everything. We were close from birth. And after reading that quote, Marissa Goldberg explained that that statement was actually said by Kevon Grant to law enforcement in a recorded interview in October of 2024. The theme of Goldberg's opening, in the simplest of terms, is basically that Kevon Grant, aka Vonnie, had the motive to do this.
Damn, so they trying to put it all on Vonnie. Well, if he's snitching, if I'm Durk and everybody else is going against this shit, yeah, I'm putting it all on you too. And it wasn't even Durk that did that, it was his lawyer, so.
Marissa explained that Vonnie and King Von's fathers were incredibly close. Their relationship actually went back decades, and because the fathers were close, it made King Von and Vonnie also close. So close, in fact, that Vonnie managed King Von. The two of them actually lived together at some point in Atlanta, and they even shared a bank account. Marissa notes that Vonnie's nickname was Cuz because he was considered to be a cousin of King Von, and so it just kind of picked up. And so, unsurprisingly, the day King Von was killed in Atlanta, Vonnie was right there. Vonnie is actually the one who drove King Von to the hospital, and according to Marissa, after King Von got shot, he asked Vonnie, quote, "Why did you let me get shot? Why didn't you do something?" King Von ultimately succumbed to his injuries, and Marissa says that that death heavily impacted Vonnie, enough for him to want to do something about it.
Damn, Durk got a case on him. Hey, his lawyers took a smart route. That's a smart route. I ain't gonna lie.
Like the government, Marissa highlights that Vonnie had ties to the criminal underworld and that he was known to secure stolen cars, stolen guns, and because he worked as an assistant, he was also very useful in booking things. Marissa says in regards to this whole murder, Vonnie is the one who booked the hotel for the defendants. He's the one who secured the 2 cars, the rented BMW and the stolen Infiniti. He's the one who purchased ski masks at REI, and because the defendants flew into San Diego, Marissa says Vonnie is also the one who arranged their transportation from San Diego to LA. And Marissa says this wasn't his first time doing all of this arranging. When Quando Rondo was shot at back in May of 2021 in Georgia, she says Vonnie arranged all of that too. And so she lays out her point that Vonnie was there when King Von died. He was there for the May shooting in Georgia, and he was there for this August 2022 LA shooting where Savia Robinson died. She highlights that he was there for all 3. But when he got caught for this last one, and officers asked him who is behind all of this, Marissa says a light bulb went off for Vonnie. And so he responded telling them, quote, "Well, whose credit card was used?" Obviously knowing it would go back to Durk. So that was Marissa's opening on behalf of Durk. Next up was the opening from DeAndre Wilson's attorney, whose name is Craig Harbaugh. And the theme of his opening was that DeAndre, aka Didi, was just a passenger. Harbaugh says Didi came to LA not knowing the plan was to kill Quando. He really wasn't even needed for this plan, and he didn't do anything to help further this plan. He came here thinking it was some kind of music opportunity and found himself as a passenger in a car with armed shooters. And then the final opening was from David Bryan Lindsay's attorney, whose name is Tillett Mills, and he points out that his client, whose nickname is Brown Eyes, flew from Chicago to San Diego using his real name. And when the trip was over, he went right back home. Tillett Mills highlights that Lindsay wasn't trying to hide, and he is not disputing the fact that he was here in Los Angeles. Mills's point is that David Bryan Lindsay has been charged with murder for hire. And since he is alleged to have been a shooter, that means that there should have been some kind of payment or some kind of exchange for something valuable that was paid to Lindsay.
And that's the thing, they're not able to prove that Durk paid these motherfuckers though. From what I'm hearing, it's not sounding like they got no proof that Durk paid them. So it can kind of look like it's all on Vonnie, but with the credit card thing, I don't really understand that. Like, did they prove that it wasn't Durk's credit card, or what's up with that? Because if they can prove that it was Durk's credit card, then... But if they can't prove it, then Durk might be coming home.
The problem, according to Tillett Mills, is there's no evidence of a payment. The government, when looking, they searched Apple Pay, they searched Cash App, bank records, everything. And according to Mills, there is nothing to show that a payment was made to David Bryan Lindsay either before or after the murder. And because the government has claimed that the payment also came in the form of musical opportunities. Tillett Mills highlights that David Bryan Lindsay is not a rapper. He has no songs, no music videos, and no features. Okay, so those were the openings. Now let's move on to witness testimony. So the first witness of the day was the custodian of records for 911 calls, and the entire point of her testimony was for us to hear the 911 call that a woman made right after the incident. Savia Robinson's family did step out during the playing of this 911 call, but essentially the call was of a woman saying that someone had been shot at the gas station. She said she didn't see who the shooters were. They ran into an alley, and she didn't want to leave any information, but she just wanted to inform the police that someone had been shot. The witness after that was a supervising officer from LAPD, and he's the one who got the video surveillance from the gas station. The videos were shown to us, and they were very quick. But what you are able to see in the videos is the black SUV that Quando Rondo and Savia Robinson were in at the gas pump. And then in the lower part of the screen, you see one of the shooters come into frame and shoot. In reaction to the shooting, the SUV drives off. All right, the next witness was a patrol officer, and the point of his testimony was really for us to see his body cam footage. So this particular officer, instead of going to the gas station, which was the scene of the shooting, he went to the location where the SUV drove off to. And when he gets to the SUV, he goes to Savia, and you can audibly hear him kind of moaning. And then you hear Quando Rondo yelling and saying his name, which, let me just say, was actually a very sobering moment and a reminder that regardless of what is proven or not proven, at the end of the day, this case is happening because someone lost their life, and an entire family is affected by that loss. All right, the fourth witness was the medical examiner, and he testified about the gunshot wounds Savia Robinson suffered. So there were 4 in total, and the one that seemed to cause the most damage was one that pierced Savia Robinson's left chest, went through his left rib, to his lung, and eventually pierced his heart. And then the final witness of the day was a detective named Detective Warner Carius, I think that's how you pronounce it, who at one point was the lead detective on this case. But apparently he's not anymore, so I guess we'll hear from the new lead later. Anyway, this particular detective testified about how he was able to start piecing together who he believed was involved in this murder. And basically, after the shooting, investigators were able to pull surveillance footage from that gas station. And one of the first big breaks came from them seeing this white Infiniti that the shooters exited from behind the gas station. Now, because of the ambush-style nature of the shooting, the shooters getting out and running up to the gas station, the detective suspected that maybe the Infiniti had been following the SUV. So the detective pulls videos from around the area, and what he notices is that every time he sees the black SUV that had Quando Rondo and Savia Robinson in it, he also saw the white Infiniti and a white BMW. Now, the Infiniti ended up being a stolen car and had fake tags, but the BMW is able to be traced to a place called VEM Exotic Rentals. The owner at VEM says he doesn't have a rental agreement for who rented the car, and he's not really trying to give over his video surveillance, but the detective was able to get a search warrant for the video surveillance, and after viewing that surveillance, officers see a man who they can't yet identify returning the white BMW on August 20th, the day after the shooting. Now, while all of this is happening, the owner of VEM ends up calling the detective back and tells him that he has GPS on all of his cars. And he hands that GPS tracking information over to detectives. And from that, detectives are able to see that about 30 to 35 minutes after the shooting, the BMW went...
It was the car that really got them caught up.
...to a nearby In-N-Out to eat. The officers go to that In-N-Out to get surveillance, and there they're able to see the white BMW in the parking lot and another vehicle that seems to be linking up with the BMW.
I've been covering her face this whole time. Sorry, y'all. Well, you two, y'all just have to deal with her face being covered the whole time. Y'all can hear what she was saying.
From these 2 cars walk inside of the restaurant, and one of the 3 people had red shoes on, red. And he also had jeans on that said rags to riches. So the detective notices this rags to riches on these jeans. He Googles it and discovers that it's a clothing line that's only sold at 2 boutique clothing stores based in Chicago, Illinois. So the detective reaches out to the Chicago Police Department, sends them some of the screenshots, and asks if they recognize any of the people from the In-N-Out. Turns out Chicago PD says they recognize DeAndre Dede Wilson, and they send LAPD DeAndre's Instagram. LAPD does a search on the Instagram, and they're able to start piecing together who they believe are the other people involved in this. Now, while this is all happening, and after Chicago PD has
This
confirmed
shit
the identity
crazy.
of DeAndre Wilson, LAPD sends a search warrant to Delta Airlines, United Airlines, Southwest Airlines, and Spirit Airlines, asking if any flights have been purchased for DeAndre Wilson from Chicago to Los Angeles in the allotted time frame.
Like, why are you wearing fucking rare designer on a drill? The rare designer on a drill though, like, they of course they're gonna track it back. Only a couple of places sell them jeans. Why are you wearing why are you wearing designer on a drill anyway, bro? They definitely could have moved smarter about this. This whole thing was not planned out well. You could tell.
And it turns out United Airlines gets a hit. They tell detectives that they have a flight for Didi, but he didn't fly into Los Angeles. He instead flew into San Diego, and he was traveling with some other people. According to United, Keith Jones was on Didi's reservation, as well as David Brian Lindsay. And so LAPD gets surveillance video from the San Diego airport, and they see the three men getting off the airplane walking into the airport. As they were searching Didi's Instagram, they also come across someone who they believe looks like the man who had on the red shoes. And that is Jerome Casey Hester, aka OTF Jam. So law enforcement sends out another search warrant to the airlines asking if there are any flights for OTF Jam, and they get a hit from Southwest. The detective looks at the surveillance from when OTF Jam landed at the airport, and what do you know? He had on red shoes. According to his investigation, the detective says that the men arrived in San Diego.
They was
They
supposed to
then
go
rode
on
a
some
Sprinter,
Walmart
or
all
what
black
somebody
shit.
described as a party bus, to Los Angeles. And around 9
planned
p.m.,
hit.
that white BMW is seen on video surveillance at the hotel that Quando Rondo was scheduled to stay at. The white BMW circles this hotel for a few hours, and Quando Rondo and Savia Robinson don't show up until close to midnight. The BMW circles, and eventually the white Infiniti also pulls up, and so both of them are circling. And then around 1 a.m., they both leave. I'm assuming they sleep for a little while, but by 9:20 a.m., the BMW is back at the hotel, which at this point is August 19th, the day of the shooting. And so based on the GPS tracking from the white BMW, officers are able to get video surveillance from all around the city and all of the places that Quando Rondo went. And when they are observing all of that surveillance, what they see is the black SUV and then the white Infiniti and the white BMW, always only a few feet behind. So Rondo went to a dispensary. The BMW and the Infiniti are seen circling the dispensary. Rondo then went to a bait clothing store. The BMW and the Infiniti are seen circling that clothing store. And then eventually the SUV Rondo is in goes to the gas station.
It was fun.
The
That nigga
BMW
around
and the
all
Infiniti
day.
are seen around that area as well. The Infiniti parks in the alley behind the gas station. The shooters exit and the shooting happens. I hope y'all followed all of that, because that is essentially how the detective identified the people he believed committed this murder. Now, before I go, let me give you a few more notes, because I didn't mention Durk a ton throughout this, but there are a few points that the detective talked about in regards to Durk. The first is that the flights were all shown to have been purchased on a card belonging to a person named Jason Smith, who worked, I don't know if he still works, for Durk. Now, it's Jason Smith's card, but it's tied to Durk's business account. And then the other thing is that the VEM car rental place, the detective said there's a picture of the owner and Durk in the lobby of the building of that rental place. And according to the GPS of the BMW, the car went back and forth to the house Durk was staying at 15 times over the course of this incident, including when the BMW left the hotel at 1 a.m., it left there and went to the house Durk was staying at. Now, it was a house Durk had rented since July and was planning to stay
might not be
until
coming home like I
October,
thought.
but the car was trapped there. Okay, I think that's it for day one. This
Durk might not be
detective will
coming
be
home
back
like
on
I
the stand
thought.
for day two to finish
But
up
if they
the
can
direct
prove the
examination,
payment,
and then we will get to cross-examination. I guess I'll be back then.
if they can't prove the payment, then I don't know. But we're gonna like low-key kind of stay updated on this case. This junk is crazy. At the end of the day, they said that all these young men had to keep losing their life, like everywhere in the country. It's getting outrageous. It's getting outrageous. But yeah, man, it seemed like them boys were slipping though. Like, this is crazy. I want to see how this trial pan out though. So please like, comment, subscribe. Yeah.